are you present enough in your being in your physical body to like know when like you're experiencing certain symptoms or like when something just doesn't feel right when you're hurting people around you?
So it can actually like impact your physical health too, and these are things that I had no idea about. I definitely found that like I can't just like put down substances and be still and do nothing. Like I really need some type of alternative plan, and for me that came with exercise and reading and like friendships and traveling. And I also have this like surplus of money that I can spend on these things when I'm not using them for like substances. Yeah, I mean, I was definitely like a hypocrite because I realized almost immediately now I'm spending more to kind of like get that feeling, and it's not the same. There's like police involved and there's hospital visits involved with like my health. So I think we're all kind of going for the same thing, like this escape, this euphoria.
I've noticed parallels between like 12-step programs and just going on that kind of like self-improvement journey.
Can you wake up feeling not great in the morning, and can you deal with some friends getting cut out of your life because of like your party lifestyle? I'm the person who was not okay with arrests, falling outs with family members, saying mean things and stuff when like alcohol was involved. Oh yeah. Well, without risking getting thrown into the back of a van, there's gonna be like punches thrown and like car crashes and nasty breakups and bouncers throwing people through windows. And several of my short films, this new one called Your Diseases in the Parking Lot, will be coming out in the next few months.
Oh, is that the one that you asked me to help?
Exactly, yeah. That's like the voice over the phone conversation.
So we can do that on the podcast, right? We can just record it. Should we take it to Sterling? Okay.
Close.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's it. All right, I'm gonna light this ceremonial podcast candle. It's official. Starting.
Yeah?
Check your inbox.
Hold on.
Ah, I'm in a movie.
Okay, what am I looking at?
Kern's got a new friend. Oh my god, I'm so hyped. So cool. All right, guys. I'm gonna introduce Zac's episode. Zac is great for a fun, playful conversation. We had a few really hilarious moments while also being able to address some quite serious topics. Zac is a musician and film producer. He's very active in community and supportive of people in his life who can benefit greatly from his wealth of experience gained in his own personal growth journey. Zac is a really good friend and is helpful and active in local arts community. I see Zac as the best kind of role model for this new age in the realm of personal growth. Zac's film, Your Diseases in the Parking Lot, the one that you just heard me speak in, is going to be out probably sometime around September. So keep your eyes out for that. You can view it at one of the links below in the description, so I hope you're able to check that out. I know that scene was so exciting. Looks like such a cool movie. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for watching. See you on the other side. Zac.
Kim.
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, welcome. So Zac is someone I've known for what? Couple?
2 years?
About 2 years, yeah.
2.5 maybe.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. He does some music stuff, some filming stuff, and gonna get to know Zac in this episode. So you're a very busy guy, and I know you had some stuff going on today. You had to actually like squeeze me in and actually move some stuff around to come here today, so I appreciate that. And I
Totally.
appreciate you coming on. Thank you so
Totally.
much.
Yeah.
So what's taking up most of your time these days? What's keeping you busy?
Yeah, I mean, I work a day job working in like addictions treatment, and I do a lot of, you know, creative work outside of that between music. I have 2 shows this weekend between a show with my band, Patrick Mongeau and the Janky Teeth, at the Jungle in Somerville tomorrow, and a radio show on Sunday for War of the Worlds that I'm doing the music for. And that's something that I just got brought into last week. So this is a particularly busy week. I don't know if it would be, you'd catch me always like this. But yeah, this is one week where it's, a lot of balls up in the air, and just trying to get through it, get to Sunday night.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's awesome. I didn't know that you were working in addiction recovery. That's pretty cool. So what exactly do you do?
Yeah, so this is called like in-home addiction treatment. So it's different from like the 28-day program where like we'll go to them almost like a social worker for people dealing with like substance use disorder, but we'll do a lot of different stuff between just like talking and getting to know each other to like actually, going out for like hikes and playing basketball and pickleball and getting coffee and, just fun stuff, that like, people can do, like spend their time doing during those times and like early recovery. And, it's stuff that helped me. I'm a person in recovery, and just like finding those things, like running was just like a massive outlet, still is, sports and, just kind of like conversations and stuff. Like I've heard a lot of times that connection is the opposite of addiction, and just like totally relate to that with like, just like the amount of isolation that you can experience, if you're having trouble with addiction, as opposed to just like, connection, just like socialization, and, how it's been proven not just good for like mental health, but actually like physical health. I think I heard it equated to like, being alone to like a pack of cigarettes a day, like a lot of isolation. So it can actually like impact your physical health too. And these are things that I had no idea about. We obviously had a little education on addiction and like health in high school, but just like really the extensive, nature of like the isolation that came with it. And, I knew about like overdosing, I knew about like alcohol poisoning, but I didn't know about like, the things that can really happen to like your personality and like that during it too. So just to kind of like bounce back to like normal, and not just me, but for like the people I know, the people I work with, and try and like find that like sweet spot where you can find happiness and like a clear head. It's just super key, I think.
Oh yeah, sounds like a really like complex and like possibly heavy like to come back from. Like
yeah, it's like I've definitely heard people with some hard stories, but mostly hopefully they're on the other side of that when they're starting this program where I work. And it's also something that I experience like outside of work. If like I'm part of like a recovery community and someone's kind of coming in new for the first time, like it's not something that I just like stop at work. If like a friend of the family or someone's kind of like put in touch with me who has questions about like recovery or sobriety or something, I'm definitely open to like exploring that with them as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you said that you mentioned that you kind of went through that, and it seems like you're really passionate about helping others through like the kind of recovery process.
Yeah, I'm super lucky to have this gig and also be able to do it in like my life as well. And like I definitely found that like I can't just like put down substances and be still and do nothing. Like I really need some type of kind of like alternative plan. And for me that came with like exercise and reading and like friendships and traveling. And I also have this like surplus of money that I can spend on these things when I'm not using them for like substances and stuff. So just like, and that's like the mistake I made, because like I tried to put down substances 2 years before I actually like did it successfully. And I wasn't doing those things. I was just kind of like sitting in my room. I've heard the term like white knuckling before, which is just trying to kind of like do it on your own with no help whatsoever. And that was definitely my experience for like a year or two. But when I had, when I was presented with like these other alternatives, just like, like exercise and traveling and hiking and stuff, it really kind of like got me excited about it and made me feel like, yeah, like this is definitely like possible.
Mm-hmm. Do you, I mean, I know you said you kind of like tried on your own and then you ended up like going for a kind of more like assisted approach, I guess.
Yeah, I went to like an actual recovery center like when I was, a long time ago, and just had like, just met people who were like the staff there, also had experience with it in their personal lives. So just that transition from like a staff with like that experience as opposed to like hospital staff who are just there for like, I'm sure they like care about it, but to like not be able to relate one on one with like what a person dealing with like these, substance issues is, can be tough. So like to have like that staff that had that experience
That has
and
been
say
through
like,
it themselves.
yeah, exactly. And like music, you were saying earlier, like, yeah, absolutely. That was kind of like already in my life, but really just like jumped into that 200% more, when I was kind of like in early recovery. And that was like a big help from, some of the staff members there. Like the center actually had like a room dedicated to that. And, that was just like super helpful. And, I was playing music with the staff and like the other residents, and, just totally forgot about like the substances and, the things I was dealing with addiction. And, that happened before, but I really kind of like was given like the space away from like my old life to really like focus on it that time. I was in a different state. I was like away from my hometown with a lot of kind of like the places that I partied at. So like I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. Like a lot of people aren't. A lot of people kind of have to like keep working and stay at home. And like the program that I work for now, in-home addictions treatment is essentially the person's still at home. So that's why we exist. So like we have that support because if you're still like down the street from that place you partied at, or you still have like your old friends' numbers, or just whatever is kind of like pulling you back towards that unhealthy lifestyle, that can be super hard. So when I say that like I was trying to do it on my own for 2 years, like I had no like barrier between me and that. So for me, I was fortunate enough to like go to a different state and go to the center, and that was like super helpful. But like with the program that I work with, we try and kind of like provide support through the week to these people, so they don't necessarily kind of like have those temptations.
So I want to ask, like, back in the time, like when you decided like that there's like you need to do something about this, so you gotta let these things go. What was the moment where you realize like this is a problem, like I want to do something about this, I need to like leave this behind, leave this lifestyle behind?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely like a hypocrite because I realized almost immediately, when I was just like, craving, a substance during like school hours in high school. And that was just like a few years after I had first tried them. So almost immediately. And, I was told that like there was some in like outside my immediate family, problems with addiction, and, that it can be hereditary. So just between like all those facts, I knew super early on, but, was still having fun and not really experiencing too many consequences until like college age. And then around then, I'm sure you've heard of like tolerance is building up. So, like drinking and, whatever like substance use was going on in high school, when it was like really kind of just hitting my bloodstream for the first time, and I'm experiencing it, fresh, was not my experience in college, and it's like now I'm spending more to kind of like get that feeling, and it's not the same, so I'm like stealing and stuff, and doing these things, and there's like police involved, and there's hospital visits involved with like my health. So it all culminated, like early 20s, and took it way more seriously then.
Since you kind of mentioned health, like, can you kind of touch on how substance abuse can affect your health and like how dramatic that can be?
Yeah, I mean, I'll also say that, during this time, like there's so many other things I've discovered, like away from addiction, like diet and sleep and exercise, that I was completely neglecting. So I won't say it was completely because of addiction that I was experiencing some of these things, because my sleep patterns were bananas, like just staying up with like Netflix all night or partying, and sleeping into like noon sometimes, constant McDonald's visits, and very limited exercise, which the body can kind of handle when you're a teenager, just like metabolize things and like move on. But I got to like college age and really started to feel that. So it was a combination of that and like addictions, because like I think a lot of substances can like curb appetites, and alcohol can like dehydrate you a lot. There were like prescriptions in the picture that had like a high Tylenol content or something, which is horrible on the liver. I remember going to the hospital and getting my liver enzymes read, that they were really high, like dangerously high. And yeah, I mean, withdrawal symptoms, of course, famously like opiates can have withdrawal symptoms, and alcohol and benzodiazepines can have like deadly symptoms. So all those things that come with withdrawal too.
Can you describe those symptoms for people who might not know? Because I don't really know much about them.
Yeah, I mean, so like with opiates, it triggers this receptor in the brain with dopamine, and I don't have like too much schooling in this. This is just kind of like what I've learned through work and other things. So like, you get dopamine when you like exercise or eat something good, but then like opiates will like flip that switch automatically for you, but it also has like a finite amount. So when you're like flipping that switch, and then you take away those pills and then go into withdrawal, that amount has been totally depleted. So that chemical that makes you happy and motivated is completely gone. So you will experience a lot of like anxiety and depression during that time. And then there's like physical cravings too. I'm not sure of like the science behind that, but it might actually be that the chemical is like so important that it manifests physically too. I'm sure there's like a lot more descriptions behind that as well. And then with alcohol, I'm not sure exactly how like seizures or like delirium tremens, actually like happen when alcohol is taken away. Same with like benzodiazepines. I just know like from like working in treatment and like hearing about it that those can be symptoms when it's taken away. I'm not sure of like the actual like science behind how that actually happens, why that's triggered during a withdrawal, but definitely can be common.
Can you tell us a little bit about, you kind of mentioned you did, was it like a rehab kind of facility you did? And then what recovery programs have you been involved with since then? And
yeah, I went to like a center up in New Hampshire that's no longer there. But like I said, like a lot of staff involved in recovery. And then when I came home, like the 12-step groups and like those communities, and I saw like a lot of that stuff in like the media and like movies, and it was always kind of like people like retired and like divorced and kind of like solely alcohol that they dealt with. And I probably got like a very just like not accurate representation of that when I was younger, but going like in person when I was in my 20s, and just like seeing people my age struggling with the things that I was dealing with, because it was just like way more rampant of a problem than it probably was like 50 years ago with some of like the prescriptions and stuff when I was younger. So I think it was just more common for people like me to come in and like ask for help with stuff like that, and just like running into a kid a few years older than me who was like clean and sober and like actually doing it gave me a little more hope than kind of just like sitting in my room and saying like, okay, the white knuckling thing, trying to get through the day. So that was like a huge game changer. Like I said, like connection, just like that like peer connection and relating to someone doing the same thing. And hopefully I can be like one of those people that that when someone who's new to that lifestyle like sees and is like, wow, maybe it's possible.
So I don't really know too much about like opiates, but can you maybe kind of describe like the difference between like an addiction to alcohol and an addiction to opiates, and how they can kind of like influence like how they can kind of come together and you end up getting hooked on both? Kind of thing,
Yeah,
I guess.
I wouldn't say there's very much any difference between like addictions with like alcohol and drugs. I think we're all kind of going for the same thing, like this escape, this euphoria, and I've heard that some people are like prone to uppers and more people are prone to downers. I think like alcohol and opiates I'd call downers, and then like Adderall and cocaine I would call like uppers. I'm still definitely a caffeine user. I think that's how we cross paths. Was seeing you at the coffee shop, and that's something like I monitor. But I like to use the term a benign addiction for that one because I'm not, the SWAT team's not kicking in my door to take my bag of Pete's coffee. So I'm not like too worried about that. But yeah, that's kind of like the impression I get from like substances and alcohol and like the effects that they're giving. And if you're like a law-abiding citizen and you want that escape and euphoria, you're probably going to go for alcohol. And like I was actually under the influence of alcohol when I first got introduced to a lot of these drugs. And when you say like how they can influence each other, like yeah, your decision making is definitely going to be impaired when alcohol's in the picture. So just like if someone's passing around the pills or like powders at a party, I'll be way more inclined to do that as opposed to just like, getting off the bus from school or something. So yeah, that can definitely influence one thing.
Um, so when it comes to recovery programs, I guess you kind of been involved in AA. That's like the 12-step program that you kind of mentioned, right? So, can you kind of talk about like AA, like everybody knows AA, and like maybe other recovery options that there are that you know of?
Yeah, I mean, that's like I was introduced to like the 12-step programs like almost right away. I think that's a popular suggestion. I've heard about like smart recovery meetings, which I've definitely not visited or experienced much of. I think I know a few people who have, and I'm not sure of like the differences there. And then there's plenty of people that just like do it. They just like have a child or join the military or do something, and they're just able to kind of like stop. So it's not always like an intervention with like a program that is needed. And people like geared towards like the spiritual, like a lot like the things that you're interested in. A lot of people just like pick up a Bible and like start church, and that kind of like takes away those temptations. And yeah, like they just veer towards like religion, and that kind of like does it for them. So a lot of options out there, for people to try and get away from it. And yeah, a lot of good ones.
Cool. Since you mentioned that too, I kind of want to get into like asking, what do you think about like the kind of parallels that I've noticed, parallels between like 12-step programs and anyone who's just like open. You don't even have to be open to spiritual concepts. Anyone who's like looking to get on like a personal growth journey or like just improve themselves in some way. What do you think about like, do you find a lot of parallels between just going on that kind of like self-improvement journey and a 12-step program?
Yeah, I mean, like part of the 12 steps will be like meditation and thoughts about like a higher power. And I see that a lot in like Buddhism and other self-help books and podcast influencers. Definitely like we were doing at the beginning of this, like the power breathing, I would consider that like a form of meditation and almost spirituality. And yeah, it's something that I kind of like peeked into when I was in like high school, like the meditation. I went to like guided meditations, and then just really jumped into in my 20s and like the past decade, and got really interested in. And it's like it's like Harry Potter, you know, it's like you have your mugbloods and you have your wizards, and, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of crossover between, like, the hobbies that they're interested in, but, like, you know, wizards have to have, like, this particular inclination, like, to practice magic, and then mugbloods might just, you know, like, be interested in something and, like, watching Quidditch or something for whatever reason, and that's, like, my metaphor for, you know, just people, like, looking at, like, personal growth as opposed to people who, you know, kind of have to do it for, you know, whatever proclivities they're dealing with.
Love that.
Okay.
I wanted to wrap off something you just said, but no, I'm like, what was it? Yeah, let's talk about, can we talk about your own personal evolution journey, like, irregardless of recovery? What is your, like, your personal growth path?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just all about, like, you know, like, the physical, mental, and, you know, just kind of, like, intellectual growth, you know, with, like, definitely some spirituality involved, and, you know, as a big basketball player, still am, and that's a huge outlet for me. That's, like, you know, I was talking to a friend this week about, like, how that's exercise I look forward to as opposed to, like, picking up a weight or going for a run, which can also be fun if, you know, it's kind of like a nice setting, you got some good music on, but, you know, most days I'm not looking forward to, like, getting into the gym. But when there's, like, basketball involved and, like, you know, competition, it's like I don't even think about, like, doing hard work or, like, exercise in that. You know, that's all about, like, you know, the strategy of the game and the tactics of stuff. So that's super important for me to be involved in. And then there is, you know, like, the exercise and working out, which, like I said earlier, like, releases that dopamine, like, you know, kind of, like, gives you, like, this fresh feeling, and is super really good for, like, your health and circulation. And you know, I'm in, like, my mid-30s, so, like, I'm starting to show signs of, like, stuff with, like, cholesterol and, you know, all these things that I kind of have to watch. Like, my metabolism isn't the same, so, you know, I do not want to be, like, waking up miserable every morning. I do not want to, you know, worry if, like, diabetes are going to be a threat or anything. Like, I just want to kind of, like, be prepared for these things that can happen down the road, and you know, physical health is just kind of, like, super important for doing that. You know, I've definitely gotten better about cutting out, like, a lot of the junk food. I eat pescatarian, which is you know, just seafood and then, you know, no other meats, and that's been just great for, like, cholesterol and, like, artery health and everything. And you know, there also is, like, the, you know, portion where I have trouble with, like, some of, like, the food industries and, like, you know, meat production and stuff, which, you know, I had kind of, like, some experience, like, looking into and researching and watching, and, you know, I feel a lot better about, you know, farming with, like, seafood than, you know, some of, like, the meat production out there. So there's, like, a lot of reasons for the diet, but, you know, it's something that is always kind of, like, a work in progress, because, you know, junk food is still, like, part of the picture, and you know, it's, like, something that I don't totally cut out, and I still have that, like, addictive personality where, you know, I say it's just going to be, like, a pack of Mentos or something, and then there's, like, you know, a cake in front of me at the end of the day, and you know, that's also why, like, you know, when people ask me, like, it's been so long, can you just go to a bar or something and, you know, have one? And it's like, no, you know, it's like I still have this personality, and it's just with things that are less dangerous, like junk food and, you know, coffee and stuff. So, you know, that's how I know that nothing's changed at all, because, you know, when I go on, like, a caffeine fast and then a week later, you know, I'm back to, like, 3 or 4 coffees a day, like, you know, I don't think I can go back to normal with you know, those other substances, just because of, like, my experience with what I'm dealing with now. So that's kind of, like, the answer that I will give.
So that's kind of, well, I wanted to say too that, like, that sounds like, I don't know, when you talk about basketball, it makes it sound fun. I'm not, like, really a sports player,
Basketball
but
is so much fun. Ball is life. That's what I tell people.
yeah.
Yeah.
you made me want to ask, I'm a terrible podcast host.
It's number 2.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's how a lot of them start.
So, kind of back to the recovery topic, because you kind of brought me thinking about that a little bit more. And this was a question that my mom gave to me. So this question is from my mom. Yeah. So, where is the line drawn that splits alcoholic from someone who can drink alcohol with no dependency issues? Or is there a line, and how clear is it?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of like discretion with the person themselves and like what they're willing to tolerate. You know, can you wake up, feeling not great in the morning and just like go on living life? You know, can you like deal with like some friends kind of like getting cut out of your life because of like your party lifestyle? I would say that there's different levels of like, drinking, heavy drinking, binge drinking, alcoholic drinking, and there is like a medical definition of that I'm sure healthcare providers can actually like define. I think there's like surveys that they'll give that will actually like define if alcoholism is a relevant term. And if you find yourself going into one of those and already like lying about it, then you might have some issues with it. Like me, like I was never honest with any of those surveys. And yeah, hopefully that's the helpful answer with that. It's like I'm the person who was not okay with like arrests and just like falling outs with family members, and just kind of like saying mean things and stuff when like alcohol was involved. And that's like the line I drew for myself, and then would cross it many times when I was tempted again. So I've also heard the phrase like, once you're trying to control something, it's out of control. And that was like totally my experience with setting like certain amounts of times I can do something each week, and breaking those rules with myself. Like I would call that like addictive behavior. And that doesn't necessarily, I mean, I'm sure people do that with like food and stuff every day, and like say they're going to exercise at the end of the day, and does that mean you're chronically lazy? Does that mean you're addicted to food? Not necessarily. So I definitely think like consulting with a healthcare provider and getting like that perspective would be super helpful, because like I said, with withdrawals, those can be like very dangerous too. So having like someone with that education involved would probably be very helpful.
Yeah, I think it's a really good answer too that you said, like, it really depends on the person and what they're willing to like accept in their life. It's also kind of a sense of like, are you present enough in your being, in your physical body, to like know when like you're experiencing certain symptoms, or like when something just doesn't feel right, like when you're hurting people around you and all that kind of stuff that happens.
Yeah, you'll hear that phrase like a moment of clarity that someone will have after like years of like partying, and then they get in a car accident, or lose like a relationship or something, and I have a moment of clarity, and it's like, oh, these are all the changes that have been happening that I've been kind of ignoring.
Like a wake-up call kind of thing, Kind of brings me into another question I wanted to ask. So, I wanted to ask this is kind of one of my ender questions, but I'll ask it now because I feel like it fits in. How would you describe an inner knowing or intuitive impulses that don't necessarily make sense or can easily be described to anyone other than you and your intimate knowing your own self? If that made sense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have. Yeah, I mean, I've read like so much good literature about this, and I don't know, none of the actual like quotes are coming to mind now, but I do think you have this like interior self where like you don't necessarily need to like spell things out in sentences to like understand them. You can just like have a feeling, or see something and know something, and it makes sense to you or it doesn't make sense to you. But then when you try and like relay it like I'm doing now or like to someone, you really need to like get articulate and describe it better for them to understand, because you don't have that shorthand that you might have with like your own like consciousness. You really kind of like spell it out sometimes. So if I'm having these thoughts about like the future or like my day or my body or my health or something, and I know I have to like take an action, like pay this bill or take an Advil or something, then that's like great. That's kind of like the routine that I have with myself. And then if I'm having a conversation with someone and I want to talk about like traveling or my health or something, I have to do a lot more than kind of just like that routine. Like I have to kind of like meet them where they're at and what their experience with like their health or traveling or whatever the topic is, and kind of like get out there and kind of like find this like middle ground where like that communication is understood.
Do you ever have any like impulses or intuition like moments that you can't really describe to anyone else? It just kind of like it's your own little like cue, only makes sense to you, and you would never be able to explain it to another person.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get inspired when I'm like hiking or traveling and just getting off like my home turf. I definitely have like a different feeling, and I do like to write, and a lot of times I'll try and articulate that in like music or like a film project I'm working on. But sometimes I'll just keep it to myself or like journal about it. And sometimes people can relate to it, or sometimes they can't, or sometimes I just like don't even share it. And then there's like the scarier side of that that I dealt with like substance use, where I got a really bad feeling, or these really uncomfortable feelings that I also wouldn't share, or if it got bad enough that I would share, that people didn't quite understand. And that can be tough, because when you feel like you're feeling something that's not real, you have the problem with feeling it, but then also like judging yourself, like, oh, is like my thinking wrong or something. So that can be another super negative effect with the substances, if you're like experiencing some of these things that aren't necessarily real, because you don't have like a consistent state of mind as you would if you were just kind of like clear-headed on a day-to-day basis.
What do you think about like alcoholism or addiction still being like a taboo topic, or do you still think it is? Do you think it still is taboo, and like, is that changing?
Yeah, I think over the past like 20 or 30 years, like it's definitely become more acceptable to talk about that. And like you were saying with people earlier, with just like personal growth as opposed to like having to kind of like treat these things. A lot of people are just doing it, like dry Januaries or just sobriety across the board for not necessarily like reasons that are having to do with like addiction, but just like for like the health benefits of just like not having alcohol in the system, and wanting to do that. So I think people are so much more open-minded to the idea of that, and also just kind of like looking at addiction as more of a disease than like a crime. Just like 40 years ago, just locking up someone and throwing away the key for like possession or something, and today kind of like what are the other options in terms of like treatment. And I think drug court, which will like send someone to kind of like a treatment program, or like community service for a drug related offense, has become popular. So yeah, just like a massive transition to where things were at like 40 or 50 years ago, and I'm sure that'll continue to change. Just like just in Massachusetts with like weed being legalized and like dispensaries and stuff, and I think that's only going to become more acceptable in terms of just well, I guess that's kind of like a different thing, because hopefully not everyone going there is like dealing with addiction, but you know, I guess that's different from your question. But yeah, I mean, people dealing with like actual like substance use, I definitely think there's a lot more empathy involved these days.
Well, yeah, it's something to be hopeful about, and yeah, it makes me feel good about like the state of, you know, like our evolution, where we're going. So.
Yeah, you know, if we can like approach those things with them, you know, I think I've heard a statistic that like, you know, 80 or 90% of like people in prison are there for like drug-related offenses or have like, you know, addiction issues that, you know, led to these crimes. So, you know, imagine just like approaching that with like empathy and giving other options and, you know, like the decree. I mean, because there is like an over-incarceration problem in this country. So just like imagine like, you know, like the progress we can make with that to kind of like decrease that number and just give other options to these people.
Okay, I thought of another question I really want to ask.
Okay.
So, what's your view on, like the alcohol industry and the pharmaceutical industry and the part that they play in like advertising to people and like upselling their products and like just promoting their products as like you know, something that's like so accessible and like just like almost like normalized, when it can be like such a dangerous like addictive substance.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, without risking getting thrown into the back of a van with a bag over my head by someone hired by these companies, you know, I definitely agree that that's something that they do, and you know, just living in like a capitalist country that we live in, that's going to be like an incentive as long as you know, that's the end result, like a profit. So you know, unfortunately that's the nature of the beast here, and you know, if I do think there's been like improvements made with the pharmaceutical industry, like Joe Biden was talking last night in the State of the Union about you know, just kind of like cutting some of these costs for products, so hopefully, you know, it'll be more about patient care than like a profit. And you know, alcohol, I do think there has been like a decrease with like some of the methods of like advertisement, as opposed to like, you know, the 20th century. You know, obviously with like cigarettes, you know, you can't have like commercials for that anymore. So hopefully, you know, with like alcohol, they'll get like a good approach with that, so it's not like super appealing to, you know, like the younger crowd. Like I can only imagine like if hard seltzers existed when I was younger, you know, just like all the flavors and stuff, you know, how appealing that could be. So yeah, unfortunately that is a thing that's like appealing to like a younger crowd and everyone in general, and like also just like normalized to kind of like show, you know, people just like throwing back you know, drinks at a bar and like commercials and like having fun and stuff. And a lot of the time, you know, that's not the reality. There's going to be like punches thrown and like car crashes and nasty breakups and you know, bouncers throwing people through windows and you know, a lot of different like chaos going on. That's actually like the reality of those atmospheres. So you know, definitely take those commercials with a grain of salt, because that's not always like the reality of it. And you know, the pharmaceutical industry, yeah, I think like obviously with, you know, the OxyContin and like all the regulations put on like Purdue Pharma and, you know, like all like the legal action there, like we're super aware of like, you know, the dangers of the advertisements and like the false information that can be given. So I think that's like kind of like a great start, and hopefully they can continue to monitor stuff like that.
What a great visual of all the things that can happen when you drink.
Yeah, I don't know if like...
Imagine if they like advertise that. Or imagine if they had like
I'm sure
an
there's
alcohol
plenty of
commercial where
like
they're like
satirical skits that do
somebody's
stuff
getting
like
thrown
that
through a window.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like making an advertisement for like liquor, you know, it's not always going to be people just sitting at a table laughing, you know. That's maybe on like the first shot, but the bottle empties, you know, things can get chaotic.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that a lot of us associate alcohol and drinking with like our golden years or something, or like our happy days and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes back to, you know, it's like, it's kind of like sugar, you know. I'm sure it dates back like thousands of years. Like this is like the rare substance that we use to kind of like celebrate things. And you know, I've heard that like we crave sugar because it was so rare, you know, like thousands of years ago, that like when you see it, you're supposed to like jump on it and take it. So that's like in our kind of like evolution to kind of like go after that. And I'm sure alcohol is similar. Like, you know, we track down this, you know, mind altering substance. So, you know, maybe it's in our evolution to kind of like jump on that and take advantage of that with, you know, the possibility we might not, you know, cross paths with it again. Maybe it's similar to sugar in that way. And a lot of times it, you know, has sugar in it too. So there's, you know, probably that craving as well. But yeah, it's just so associated with like celebration, you know, like spirits, celebration, and you know, accomplishing something, the way like you light up a cigar after like a big business deal or something. So I think you know, golden years is going to be a lot of celebrations with graduating and weddings and babies being born, and you know, all the things that happen. So, you know, traveling, you know, so there's going to be that involvement. And you know, as like a person who's going through recovery in their 20s, like I felt super alienated because I was still going to these events and, you know, on social media, like witnessing these events, and couldn't really like experience it. And you know, I felt strong in my recovery because I don't, you know, like drink like a lot of those people do at those events. So, you know, I knew that, but how am I not going to feel like alienated when like that's going on? So, yeah, you know, just kind of like getting an understanding of like why that's, you know, so involved with golden years and events like that could probably be helpful if someone's trying to, you know, understand, you know, why they can't do it, or why, you know, it's like so prevalent. And you know, the good news is there's like a lot, you know, to offer, like when that's not involved, and like a lot of experiences that can be had with like, you know, a clear-headed consciousness. And you know, a lot of things that I think I've been able to do, like, you know, just have memories, you know, that like a lot of people probably can't have of, you know, these events and get-togethers that you know, I can like just retain and have like a clear memory of, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, that's just like one of the things, you know, and the money you save with it, you know, with like the bar bills and stuff. So a lot of pros to not doing that.
Yeah. So you mentioned a lot of the things that you do, like activities to like kind of help you not have the cravings for alcohol. But what are some of the things that you do for fun and recreation, like as a sober person? I think some people would want to ask, what do you do to enjoy yourself since you don't drink alcohol? Because it's the only thing to entertain people sometimes, I think.
Yeah, totally. I'm huge on the outdoors. I have a dog that I'm constantly going for walks every day, and sometimes, you know, hiking. I was up in New Hampshire for a bit and knocked out some of like the 4,000-foot mountains, which my dog really enjoyed. And that's just like awesome accomplishments and fun, and probably something I couldn't do if I was like hungover and super dehydrated. But you know, I also, like I said, like basketball, and, you know, music is a big part of my life, and filmmaking. And you know, I would almost call like filmmaking something I do for more than just fun. Like it's something I take seriously, and you know, try and like enter in festivals. And you know, hopefully it's more than just like fun with that actual realm of creativity. But, you know, music is definitely something that's fun, and picking up a guitar and like learning songs, or writing some of my own songs, you know, which I've experienced with you a little bit, and playing out at like open mics and stuff, and just huge movie buff, just like throwing on a movie or going to a movie, and seeing friends, like going out to dinner, traveling with friends, spending time with family. I've got 3 nephews. My little brother has nephews that I hang out with a lot, and like a lot of the adults at like these events and stuff are kind of like having a drink or something. I can just hang out with them with like a clear head and like kind of like be on their level consciousness wise. So that's like a huge benefit of doing that. And yeah, there's probably a lot more reading. I ended up getting my degree in English, so I just have a totally different experience reading as I did in high school, where it was like this dreaded thing that the teacher would assign. Like it's something I can sit back and enjoy now. And yeah, a lot of those things. Cool. Concerts.
Oh yeah. What are some of your favorite books? Do you read mostly fiction, or?
Yeah, I definitely have a problem with doing too much fiction. I know there's so much good nonfiction out there, like we were talking about earlier, like personal growth stuff that I really just need to like jump into, but I just can't pull myself away from fiction. I really like a lot of like the classic authors like Herman Melville and Jack Kerouac and Charles Dickens. I just read like a John Grisham book in like a week, who's a more modern writer who I think did like the Lincoln Lawyer, and has a lot of like modern day adaptations for like TV shows. And yeah, he's more of like a thrilling, like can't put it down writer type stuff. But yeah, I definitely could dig into more nonfiction as well.
Yeah, I haven't read really much fiction in a long time. Probably since school.
Yeah, I remember we had that
and I didn't want to
we're
read
opposites. Yeah, you do the personal growth and nonfiction, and
I'm
doing the fiction. Yeah.
Well, one of my friends he wants me to read this book that he has, some fiction book, and it sounds really cool. So eventually,
It's probably me.
No, he is the guy in my band, and he picked it up and he decided to start reading it again. So he didn't give it to me yet. He's reading it. And
it's like, this is good. You can't have it. Actually.
Yeah, he's like, he's gonna read through it and then give it to me when he's done.
Nice.
So yeah, let's talk more about like the movie stuff that you do, because that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I was working with my dad a lot, who was manager of a public access TV station, and just like brought me into the studio and just like work with him on shows and stuff. I'd be at like the football games at the high school, in like the TV truck and watching all that, and just immediately fell in love with it. Like who won, I think that's a lot of people's dream, is like the entertainment industry in Hollywood and stuff. And we didn't necessarily have like a film club in high school, but I got involved with theater. I felt that was like the closest thing to like performing stories, and then studied it in college. And although I don't like work full time in it, I do a lot of like freelance like camera gigs and acting gigs, and then make like my own films, because I've been educated and experienced enough on movie sets to kind of like know how to do that. So I can I probably made like 8 short films now. I just finished another one that is kind of like teetering on the edge of like short film and full length. And just the experience of getting the cast and crew together and showing them the fruits of our labor, and then entering it in a festival. Festivals are just great experiences to kind of like go and see other people's like work, a lot of independent filmmakers, and then show them yours, and traveling to the place where the festival's being held. And then I'll just kind of like throw it up online and like share it with the world, and a lot of times I get like some good feedback, and it's also an opportunity to network with like more artists and actors and people involved in that, and it kind of like feeds into itself that I meet these other like collaborators through making these things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So are any of your films up somewhere where people can find it?
Yeah, I have a link. I have a channel on YouTube. My company is No Vignettes Productions, and that's where it's on YouTube.
Awesome. So I'll link that in the description.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Sounds really fun.
Yeah, hopefully they're entertaining enjoyable. And this new one called Your Diseases in the Parking Lot will be coming out in the next few months.
Oh, awesome. Is that the one that you asked me to help?
Exactly. Yeah. That's like you would be like a police detective who would be just the voice over the phone conversation. So
Cool.
yeah.
Oh my god. And so we can do that on the podcast, right? We can just record it.
Do we want to just go for it? We can...
Well, let me see if there's any other questions
All right.
I wanted to ask you first, but yeah. All right, so you kind of, I feel like you definitely answered this like a few times over, but if there's anything else you want to touch on, what are the ways you creatively express yourself in the world? Anything that like you didn't already cover?
Yeah, I think writing, not necessarily for like music or film, but just like writing, some like story or just my thoughts. Sometimes I'll put in like poem form that I won't necessarily turn into a song. Like it'll just kind of be like this free verse thing. I'm reading this Stephen King book that is like his newest one called Holly, about this detective, and it takes place up in Maine and like a lot of like the academia up there. And one of these women characters is talking about writing a poem and how like life can be so out of control, and like it feels like overwhelming sometimes, but if she can just write like one line or one poem, she feels like there I did something right. And at least I could do that right. And I feel like I definitely get that with writing a line of a poem, or a lyric in a song, or something creative. When I feel like you can't control other things, like you can just like create that, and like maybe that's like close to the truth or fulfilling in some way.
I can definitely relate to that, because I probably write something down every single day. Either write it down, or like make a note on my phone, or something.
Yeah, if you can just do just one sentence a day, like start with that. If you can get like a daily routine, and a lot of times, if you're like a competitive person or something, you'd be like, oh, I need to do more than a sentence, I just shouldn't do anything at all. Like, trying to get in the routine rather than, setting like, the goal of writing a novel in like a day, just try and do like the daily thing, and then I think that'll grow as time goes on.
Cool. Yeah, if you write like a page every day for a year, you have 365 pages. Like
it's book length,
yeah. Things add up. All right, so I know that we have had experience that we did a Wim Hof what's it called, workshop together.
Exactly, yeah.
That was really cool.
It was awesome.
So was that wasn't your first one though, was it?
That was my first
That was
workshop.
Your first one?
Yeah.
But
I
you
did
were
like
practicing...
an online course with them.
Oh.
That was like super informative and helpful, and that was like a 10-week thing. But that was my first in-person experience with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does Wim Hof do, and what do you practice? What is the Wim Hof practice that you participate in?
Well, for me, it helps a lot with like stress levels, and I know there's a lot of research about it having like immunity to like some diseases and stuff, but for me, just kind of like resetting at the beginning of the day or some point of the day with like power breathing or cold exposure or both combined can really help with I've heard it can set off your like fight or flight mode, which can happen when you're having like a panic attack or something happens. So essentially, like the idea of doing that on your own, like at the beginning of the day, and just kind of like having experience with that can prepare you for when that happens unexpectedly in like traffic or at work or anything, so you're more kind of like attuned to like dealing with that when you've already experienced that.
Yeah, so you've kind of practiced like your own little like whatever, like reaction to even though nothing's happening, and then you're kind of just like you said to yourself after you're like good for the day.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've
Kind of like
noticed
give you
the difference.
A baseline.
Yeah, I've noticed when I've just like skipped out on it for a couple days, some like frustration creeps in from like work or something, and it's just like a lot harder to deal with on days that I'm not practicing this. days that I am.
So can you describe what you said, like the power breathing, like what is that, and then the cold exposure, what is that?
Yeah, so, the way that I did it, and there's a lot of different forms of this, but the way that we did it at the beginning of this is 30 deep breaths, and then letting all the breath out of your lungs and just holding, when you first do it, it'll probably be okay for like a minute. I've gotten up to like over like 3 minutes recently, but that's doing it for like a few years. And then breathing in, holding for 15 seconds, and that's one round. And then I've done probably like, 3 or 4 rounds on a regular day.
Oh, so you hold on the exhale for up to 3 minutes, is what you're
After
saying?
I've done it for like several years, I think if you're
Yeah.
first starting out, like a minute is a good goal for that. Yeah.
Cool. And then what is cold exposure?
Yeah, I mean, cold exposure is also kind of like a baby step thing. I would suggest, like 15, 30 seconds, with like the cold on in the shower, and trying to get up to like 2 minutes over like a few weeks. And then there's also, these like custom cold pools, that kind of just look like a garbage can or something that you just hop into. And I think the suggested amount is like 11 minutes a week to get like the benefits of kind of like stress reduction and just strengthening your immune system with that. And there's a lot of ways. Like I jumped into the ocean with a friend a few months ago, and we had that access to like that actual cold pool up in Hampton, and whichever way you can do it. I think cold showers will obviously be most popular to people who are just starting out. And
Most
then,
accessible.
Exactly, yeah. So, that's, that you can try it out. If it works, then that's great. And if not, it's something, you don't necessarily have to do.
Yeah, I think ever since we actually did that event, I am constantly seeing like the advertisement for that like cold bath, like cold like tub
Oh, yeah.
on Instagram whenever I'm scrolling. Like,
Yeah.
there's another one.
That's big bath following your
Yeah.
activity.
All right. Oh, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on with that? Or was there anything that like really like helps you get along and like
Yeah, I mean, I think like we've jumped a lot into like wellness and these like rigorous routines and stuff, but a lot of the times, sometimes the good thing to do is just like nothing, just like kicking back with like a TV show or like a nap or something. Like I'm lazy too. I just want to make that clear. Like I'm not just all, I'm not like all like self-help all day. Like I definitely like kick back and do nothing sometimes too, and just like give myself like a lot of days off as well. So I think that's important. I'm sure some influencers would like disagree, but I love doing that now and then, just like laying on a hammock or couch or something, and just relaxing and kind of like giving myself a break with like the routines and like schedules and stuff can be awesome too.
You gotta take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And be patient with yourself and give yourself that grace and space to like
Totally,
relax and do what you need. And naps are great. Timmy agrees. Timmy loves naps.
A lot of pets love naps.
Yeah.
My hound, I think hounds average like an 18-hour rest
A day?
Yeah.
Wow.
But when he's not doing that, he's absolutely gun-ho about like walks and getting out and stuff. But once that's accomplished, he's totally okay with naps, and we will do that a lot.
Yeah. That's how they get so much energy.
I guess so, yeah, a lot of the rest.
Yeah. Plus, they don't have to worry about anything. They don't pay taxes. They don't like.
Yeah.
They don't have
life
to
of
work.
a dog, yeah. Yeah, I envy a lot of it.
All right. Maybe I'll ask my last questions, and then we can go into like the recording thing. All right, so I have a few last questions that I'm gonna be asking all my guests. One of them I already asked you about intuition. What are you here for on Earth to do?
I think I'm big on the creative arts. I've found, I think, just kind of like expressing myself through multimedia forms, a lot of like film and video. I just, feel like I'm gravitating towards that a lot of the time. I feel like, I'm lucky enough to have some musical talents, so kind of like expressing in that way as well. But also like provide a service, like a party or event or something, and if someone's asking for like, musical accompaniment, I can provide that too. Hopefully it's not all like a selfish fulfillment. Hopefully it's like providing something as well. I think I'm definitely meant to kind of like be active and like hike and explore and just kind of like, keep the circulation running, keep like the lungs pumping. I don't think I'm meant to be still all the time. And yeah, I think that's like the simple answer for like me in particular.
Cool. What is your highest and brightest vision of the future?
I think, for me to just kind of like, remain active with like these pursuits and hopefully making like a good income and like a comfortable income along the way. And, for the world to reach a place of like, understanding and just, meeting people in the middle and, really kind of like letting that, first impulse to get like frustrated or upset or defensive pass, and then approach it with kind of like a calm, patient mind and, really, communicate those types of things so, we don't live in this, chaotic place, where we're kind of like warring and, that's definitely super idealistic, but, hopefully we can get somewhere close to that with at least few of the situations the world's facing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important. And what do you want to plug, if anything?
Yeah, I mentioned like my YouTube page. It's got several of my short films, and then I released an album last year called One Step Ahead of Myself, which is on Bandcamp, and I can provide those links to put out. I think it's way too late to invite people to that show, but I don't even know if you'll post this in time, but I'm playing in Somerville tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll be playing again. Patrick Mongeau and the Janky Teeth will play around the Boston area.
And if you have like a website or something for your band.
Exactly, I'll share that. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for being my guest, Zac. This was fun. I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah, this is great interview for a second podcast.
Yeah, thank you for all your support and everything too. So now we're gonna try to do a little voice recording. See if I can
get that up.
That's exciting. I'm gonna be in a movie.
If I can find the scripts.
Maybe we can make up the 3 lines.
I mean, I can tell you if you can just remember.
Oh, I can note it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can't find it.
Okay, so first one is check your inbox.
Check your inbox.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Curran's got a new friend.
Curran?
Yep.
Got an... Oh, can I actually take... How do you spell that name?
Curran. It's the antagonist of the story.
Got a new friend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year.
Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year?
Yeah.
Or from last year? Or doesn't matter?
Of last year.
Of last year, okay. And that's it?
Should we take it to Sterling?
Should we take it to Sterling? Question mark. All right.
And then you'll just say okay at the end of that. So maybe more than 3 lines. Short sentences.
Okay. All right, let me practice.
Yeah. You got that singer's voice. I think you'll absolutely deliver.
Yeah, but like a cop, I don't know. I feel like my voice is kind of cute,
attitude, yeah.
but yeah, I don't know if I could be like a bad
more,
bitch.
Yeah, you got this.
I'll try.
A little more stern.
I'll do my best. Okay.
Cool.
Check your inbox. Well, I guess I should be kind of loud,
Awesome.
right? Project.
No need. Just a phone conversation. Just the way you talk on the phone.
Alright.
Yeah.
Check your inbox. Curran's got a new friend. Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year. Should we take it to Sterling? Okay.
Close. Yeah. This was
Were the
like-
words all right?
Yeah, they were
Okay.
exactly spot on. Yeah.
Okay.
So should we take it to Sterling as more a little more urgent, like something's gonna happen if you don't you think you need to intervene, so it's more like pressuring. Imagine like a coworker.
Should we take it to Sterling?
Exactly. Yeah.
All
that's
right.
it,
Cool.
Yeah. And the kid's got no priors since last year. Like that's like kind of like a throwaway, just like, oh, we don't need to worry about his background or anything, like this character that I'm talking about. And that's also connected with the line Curran's got a new friend. You're kind of giving like a
Okay.
exposition of like the friend.
All right.
But first take was awesome. I think we can give it a go.
Sweet.
I just need to adjust one thing here. Awesome.
Just go.
Yeah.
Check your inbox. Curran's got a new friend. Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year. Sorry. It was kind of like...
Yeah, a little more impatient with the check your inbox, a little more orderly.
Okay, should I just go? Or...
Yep.
Check your inbox. Curran's got a new friend. Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year. Should we take it to Sterling? Okay.
Awesome. A little bit more space between Curran's got a new friend and kid's got no priors.
Okay.
Give that a few seconds.
All right. Check your inbox. Curran's got a new friend. Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year. Should we take it to Sterling? Okay.
Nice. Everything was perfect. Sound like you were reading on the kid's got no priors. A little more natural with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're like a good director.
Thank you.
Wow. All right. I get a drink. Check your inbox. Curran's got a new friend. Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year.
Okay.
I'll start over.
Just worry about that one. I think we got everything else.
Okay. Just the kid's got it.
Yep.
Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year.
Just trying like one flowing sentence.
Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year.
That's it. Let's try one more just like that.
One more. Kid's got no priors except for a DUI.
It's hard when you're thinking about it a lot.
Kid's got no priors except for a DUI charge of last year.
That's it.
Shit!
Yeah. Well done.
Oh my god, so cool. So cool.
I was thinking of you for this like
Huh.
a few
Oh
months
yeah, you
ago,
did mention it, yeah.
and you were like, yeah, maybe I can audition. I'm like, this. I'm not.
Is that what it is?
Universal Studios. You can just hop on, and I trust
Oh my
you.
god, that's so cool. That's so funny. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this episode. If you're not already, please remember to like this video and subscribe to support this channel. Don't forget to check the links for today's guest in the description below. If you like watching my podcast and you think to yourself, I'd love to be a guest on that show, well, do something, get curious, get interested, be active in your communities. We all as individuals have great value to offer, and more than that, significance in being uniquely you. I invite you to open yourself up to every possibility you've ever dreamed of for yourself, or held back from letting yourself even dream. To quote Bonnie Ray, give them something to talk about. How about love? Really, put love in everything you do and watch miracles happen. Give us something to talk about that aligns with my mission of community, love, and awakening higher consciousness, and I'll have you on as my guest to ask, what is it like to be you? Keep up with me to be notified of bonus content when it becomes available, including tarot readings for my guests, opening ceremonies, breathing exercises, and more, including the incredible Breath 101 practice with Karina Karjan.
It was interesting you decided to serve vodka for this podcast too. I don't really know.